And then, of course, as a government, all right, or policy maker, we also need quality assurance. All right, the next diagram, all right, I'm going to push my button. I hope that you're not scared. You see, there's so many names there. Could you recognize all of them? Could you recognize all of them? You recognize. You see medium instruction, this is the new one. Although we have a medium instruction in the past, I should add fine-tuned medium instruction policy. You see the 334 is there already, and you just see the project EG and everything. But they all point to the center. They're all there to support student learning reform. And then remember in the previous diagram, where is IT? IT permeates into, or IT in education actually permeates into learning curriculum, and of course, to some extent, assessment. So that's why, you know, when we introduce the third strategy, all right, we actually have to say that what are the roles and responsibilities of different stakeholder groups. But I know we made a mistake, and then just casually in the conversation with Nancy, we find that something is missing. So what I'm going to do is to fill this gap and tell you, you know, I'm trying to fill that gap. So let's look at, I summarized the last 10 years with one diagram. So this is the first report. And then of course, if you'd like to ask me an insider story, how I react to this, I'll share with you after this conference. But I must, I will agree with Alan that this report did give a message that the strategy was trying to respond to the changes, external changes. But in the second report, now we are actually sort of involved. You see, as Nancy rightly pointed out, this one is trying to meet the goals, the learning goals, the curriculum goals. Of course, IT in education is also a goal of itself. That is, the information literacy skills is also a goal of itself. But it's also a means to the end, the means to other learning goals of the curriculum reform that I mentioned. So it's actually a very important driving force. And of course, in terms of the infrastructure, that is the reform infrastructure, IT plays a very important role, especially in the school. If you ask Sister Margaret here, you know, how much she has invested, how much effort she has put into enhance, you know, the IT system in order to make learning work. I mean, to make the reform work. Without those, no matter what you say, you know, how much you talk about, you know, learning to learn, knowledge building, and then there are hurdles. The hurdles are in, you know, maybe physical barriers, communication barriers, system barriers, and then technology is really information technology, of course, and then of course e-leadership. You know, if you study the pattern of how school principals communicate with the teachers and how schools communicate with parents, I'm sure that you also see a lot of you know, differences. So we begin to see e-leadership, a lot of e-leadership, learning, teaching, leadership. And now, what Nancy just shared with us, there's again, a very big, well, I would say it's a variation. And then I'm just talking to Sister Margaret, and then, you know, sharing our observation is that much is attributed, maybe most probably, to families, cultures, regional differences. And of course, I haven't asked my colleagues very specifically, you know, why they come up with this. But as, you know, insider, we know we're sharing, you know, more or less the same views about IT in education. It's not IT for IT's sake, right? Because it's so complicated. Teaching and learning is so complicated. It depends on what you learn, how you learn, the learner styles, the teacher styles, and the school. Those school contexts are so different, and then complicated by parent expectations, and so if we write teens. In Chinese, there's a very good saying. When you design, every day we're making very important decisions, pedagogical decisions, assessment decisions. They all have to be teensy, they young war. What if, you quarrel, with your IT assistant? I don't know. We have this problem, when you need help, don't underestimate, the importance of this. This is actually very important. And then, of course, now we move to a stage or stage where we think that things will happen in schools, are going to happen more in schools. That's why, we are talking about more school-based here. We don't mean school are going to be responsible for all the funding, everything. What we mean is that eventually, the model that emerging in each school is really have its school-based characteristic, making use of the different conditions, achieving different learning goals, maybe aspiring to different exit of the new academic system and so on and so forth. Of course, we offer our help to remove hurdles if there's still any in your school and in the system. And then now this is just a very typical government measure, whatever strategy you put forward, then it's followed by some professional development programs. So I'm trying to fill the gap of student roles, because in the package that we send to schools, there are teachers, there are school principals, but there's no student. So what is this? Now this is what is in the package. In the report, we have the school leaders and teachers, and then I'm not going to repeat it again, because I think that this is mentioned. We slightly mentioned we did have a goal for students. We said that we try to enable every student to become information literate, to fit into the e-world, assess information literacy parents, and then they look after or they support the students and so on. Now, the next slide is what I try to do with the student. And information literate person to use IT to learn effectively and cope with changes of the 21st century, because we could not predict, we could not define specifically what has happened, but I think what the message we're trying to send is that you keep changing. Therefore, the strategy has to keep responding continuously to what is changing, at the same time driving the change, and then driving towards the goals of curriculum or learning. And of course, all these same skills. And then, so we're modest, we're not very aggressive, but we think that these are achievable. Smart and ethical IT user. We hope our students enjoy learning more with the support of IT, and then for e-resource, everything that comes with IT in education. Develop self-learning skills. It's not just not competent, it's for learning, and we want to emphasize this learning all the time and for daily life. And then to learn collaboratively, we want to emphasize this because we believe that learning collaboratively would enable students to learn better, learn more, learn interactively with others. And I may still fine-tune the wordings a little bit about, it's not to form learning communities, but inner learning communities, whether it's a formal structure or informal virtual learning communities. So I just want to emphasize again that the goals, the outcomes for students in IT and education, on the one hand, it is an outcome. These are the outcomes of IT and education. They are also processes leading to the broader outcomes. Of course, they are also drivers, the drivers for better learning. So we're very consistent, we have a very student-focused reform, and then we hope that IT in education, the third IT strategy in education, will help a lot. So thank you very much.